much for joining us today on LIFERS. I'm super excited because I get to interview this one today. This is Jay, obviously. I'm Laura, and we are the ones who run LIFERS and had this great idea, his great idea actually, which he's going to hopefully get into here very soon for us. So Jay, I'm going to just kind of ask you questions, which is kind of odd for us, but let's get into it, okay?
Okay.
So, when you were first diagnosed was?
1996.
Okay, and then your transplant wasn't until 2008?
2008, yeah.
What was your diagnosis?
My diagnosis was cardiomyopathy. And for people who don't know what that is, it's basically a condition where you have an enlarged heart and it restricts the blood flow to your other or your other organs, such as your liver and your kidneys and your inner organs. And so, without getting too deep into it right now, because I know you probably have a follow-up question, cardiomyopathy was something that I was initially handling with medication, but then it got beyond that to the transplant phase.
And you didn't just have a heart transplant, though. You also had a liver. So
right.
The liver was needed because of, you were just mentioning the cardiomyopathy then was affecting the other organs, so that caused the liver as well?
Yeah, it made the liver, it was a cirrhosis of the liver because it wasn't getting that blood flow. So my liver and kidneys were affected. And so at the time, my kidneys were still in working order. So the doctors at the University of Chicago chose to just do a heart and liver combination, which was a rare combination at the time. They hadn't done many of those at the hospital, at that particular place.
And so you lived in Aurora, correct, at the time that all of this kind of was happening? So how did you get hooked up at the University of Chicago?
Well, actually, let me go back. Originally I was in Bolingbrook, and I was referred by a friend to a doctor. And once I saw that doctor referred me to Edwards Hospital to Dr. Costanzo. And so that's kind of, my pathway to getting a transplant because, as I mentioned before, while I was in Michigan, still where I'm originally from, the doctors, I had visited Cleveland Clinic a couple times, and the doctors just wanted to treat me with meds and kind of hope that things, continue to be okay. But again, once I got here, I was directed to Dr. Costanzo, and she actually put me on the path to transplant.
Okay, so she hooked you up with the University of Chicago.
She hooked me up with the University of Chicago.
So, because Edwards Hospital is in Naperville.
Right.
And they're not a transplant center, correct?
No,
so you had to go to the University of Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I know that January 8th, 2008 was a big day.
Yeah.
Can you tell me kind of leading right up to that? You got a call, like how did all this kind of happen? Was it a whirlwind? What was kind of walk me through your thought process from what you remember.
I was fortunate because I was, Dr. Costanzo, once she saw my diagnosis, she was immediately on the phone with the University of Chicago. So she knew at that time, when she saw my condition, she made it possible for me to get on the list. I met a demographic, I was young enough, I was healthy enough. But no, it actually happened like a whirlwind because once I was first put on a transplant list, I was wearing an apparatus actually that was helping my heart pump. And so they took me in for observation in October of 2007. I was there for 2 weeks. And then, I got a call out of nowhere in January of 2008. Rushed in. So I was really fortunate, it may be a 4-month waiting period for me once I was enlisted.
So that was quite a whirlwind.
Yeah,
so then, you got the call. How were you feeling? Like, you got the call. You were obviously, I'm assuming, at home, right?
Yeah.
Because you weren't really getting around at the time.
Right.
So what was it like when you arrived at the hospital? So for those people who maybe found out that they have to have a transplant or has a family member who's, waiting, what was that like for you? What was the steps like? Obviously you didn't just show up at the hospital and go into surgery. So what was that like?
Well, so they tell you to once you clear all the. Again, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks,
Right.
and I went like through just numerous testing, just to make sure that they want to do blood samples. They want to make sure that your donor is compatible, obviously in the different ways. And so for me, after coming out of that 2 week stay at the hospital, they just said, "Hey, we'll give you a call. Uh, be you know be by your phone at all times. You never know when you're gonna expect that call." So I was always checking my phone, no matter what number came up, and so it comes up. The number comes up actually as unknown. So it came up just. And I was at home on a Sunday evening, and it was like 6:30 in the evening. I got the call, and they were like, "Hey, this is UC." They kind of ran down, obviously, why they were calling, because I was a transplant recipient or candidate at the time. And they said, "Can you be here in an hour?" And, I was like, "Yeah, I can be in an hour." So it's kind of how, it's just almost like it was a dream. So hopped in the car and headed to UC. And once I got there, they checked me in, and I just remember everything just kind of going like a whirlwind.
Wow, that had to be really a whirlwind for you.
Yeah.
So,
really...
tell me a little bit. You came out of surgery.
Mm-hmm.
I know for you personally, you had not complications per se, but it took you a while, right?
Yeah. They had to get my heart rate up. My heart rate was really low at the time, and so they just my body had to get acclimated to new organs, and everything looked right, but my heart rate was probably in the 50s, and that was just something that obviously they would send me home on. So I had a month stay after my transplant in the hospital, so that was tedious, and obviously them trying to get my heart rate up, and going through a series of tests. Also, while I was there, they do a lot of these heart catheters, right heart cath. So want to make sure the organ is functioning and it's not rejecting. So during that whole 30 days of being in the hospital, I had a battery of tests that I had to go through as well.
I'm sure you were ready to get out of there after your transplant.
I actually got out on Super Bowl Sunday. I remember that. So
that's the best Super Bowl probably in the world, right?
It was really surreal. A surreal feeling to undergo all of that and come out that way. So, but I'm thankful for the people at UC. I mean, they did a really great job. I had a great attending doctor. I had great nurses and great staff to really help me along, because you don't go through that type thing alone, and you need to find the strength from different sources, including family and friends. So,
and you had family and friend support too, right? That was there with you,
yeah.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about when you got home from the hospital. So you had that 30-day stay. There was a lot of rehab in there. Mm-hmm. How long would you say until you really felt healthy and good again?
Well, I'd say I had occupational therapy, physical therapy directly after, when I felt up to it. So I'd say the whole process was like 6 months until I started. I still had a lot of fluid on me, mm-hmm. So I didn't really look like myself per se. But then I say 6 months after that, I was able to kind of get acclimated. My body trimmed down a little bit. I felt healthy. I didn't feel as stiff or sore. I mean, there's a lot of soreness, obviously, it's involved with just pain in general after, and healing up. You really have to, I don't know what the word is, you really have to discipline yourself to not push too hard. They tell you to really rest for, up to 6 weeks after the surgery. And so I just remember, like, following doctor's orders, going into therapy, and then maybe 6 months down the road, I started feeling like myself again. Actually, better than myself, because I had a new heart and a new liver. So, yeah, it's a process. It's definitely a journey. So
we've talked a lot about your physical journey with all of this. Can you tell me a little bit what mentally and maybe even emotionally, but what psychological changes did you have to go through knowing now, okay, I have this new heart, I have this new liver, that, now you're on anti-rejection medications or immunosuppressants. So people who have had transplants, for those who might not know, they have to take medications for the rest of their life, regardless of how they're feeling, in order to keep your body from rejecting the organs, correct? So what kind of mental, emotional changes, lifestyle changes did you have to make in order for you to stay healthy and to continue on this amazing journey we call life?
Well, dietary changes, I mean, they give you, obviously, you want to take good care of your organs, so you want whatever changes, whether if you're a smoker or, say, a heavy drinker, you want to alter your lifestyle, your diet, you lower the sodium in your diet. You want to do, they give you kind of a layout of kind of the healthy lifestyle. Obviously, those a couple. You're going to cheat on a couple things. I mean, my personal weakness has always been sweets, but I pretty much stayed the course on that. I gave up fast food for the most part during that time, and but psychologically, I think you have to get used to these new organs in your body, and you have to, you're functioning a lot. So, to give you a little backstory, I was actually, you know, I was actually not myself, so to speak, for years and years. And so now it's almost like you have a new lease on life. You have these new organs, and they're functioning properly. So your body has to catch up to it because so much trauma your body has gone through, up to getting the surgery, through the surgery, and it's just psychologically, um, even I've even been told by doctors that some of these medications make you a little bit more emotional. So, emotionally, to me, it was just like a really head trip because I hadn't felt that well in a long time. So it was just getting used to that, being able to do activities again that you enjoy doing. I mean, there was a time where, I walk in the supermarket and like 3 steps in, I get out of breath. During the peak of the cardiomyopathy, and so it's just it's a lot to take in. Um, I think also when you were young as I was when I received that transplant, I think people look at you differently. I would always hear, "Oh, you're too young to, you're too young to have, whatever these issues going on." So that was kind of like I would hear that constantly from people. So it really is really. I know people are trying to relate or try to empathize, but those kind of when people you're constantly hearing that, it's kind of like you can think, why me? But for me, I always had a positive outlook. That was the only way I could really get through that mentally, was just be positive and know I had like more than me to live for. At the same time, I had just had a son and a daughter, and I just knew it was more. Life was bigger than what I wanted. This is something that I had to do.
So that brings me to a great question. So for you personally, for anybody who may be seeing this, who knows somebody who is going through an organ transplant, needs one, or just went through one, what is something that they could say? What would something be that's helpful or comforting to that person? Instead of something like you said, "Oh, you're so young," or something like that, or "Oh, you seem so healthy." What are things that would be helpful or that you would like to hear?
Well, it's even though, like I said, it's coming from a good place. People can always ask, how can I help, or what, is there anything that I could do, or just a simple, just this simple human interaction where you're, reaching out and asking if there's anything that you can help out with. You don't want to treat that person differently. You don't want to treat them like this, some type of outcast, but just asking if you can help out in some sort of way, or what can you do to assist that person to make their load a little bit lighter. I mean, just simple stuff like that. I don't think um, that's really hard to do, but I don't think people. I think when people see a young person who may have a condition or whatever, and may be in a sick state physically, then they kind of like feel sorry for that person, and they project that in different ways that they may not realize. So,
Okay. So you now need another transplant, right?
Yeah.
So that's this time your kidneys.
Yeah.
So you need a kidney. So you're kind of going through that all again. How does that make you feel to know that, like, okay, I've done this before, and now here I am needing a kidney?
No, I look back at it sometimes and say like, hey, maybe we should have maybe analyzed this a little bit more serious back when I had my original transplant. But again, we chose not to take that route because my kidneys were at the time still functional. But I look at it like still had the positive mind state, and I think of it like, look, I got through the other transplant, with positivity and support, and this time I feel like my mindset is the same, and I have that support, and I have the trust of my team, my doctors and physicians and support staff, and I really feel like I'm going into it with a positive mindset. It's almost like one of those type of things where every operation and surgery and procedure is different, but I'm going into it with a little bit of knowledge as what to expect, and so I'm going to it with a positive mind frame.
So LIFERS is really your baby that you're allowing me to go along on this journey with you, which I am so appreciative of.
Right.
What about transplant made this something that you've known that you wanted to be an advocate, you wanted to support, you wanted to do those kinds of things since your transplant? Can you tell me a little bit about
I think,
how that came about?
I always wanted to be kind of like a vessel or a person that advocated and just made other people who may have been a little bit intimidated by transplant or organ donation. I wanted to be kind of that person that they could relate to, that I could help spread their awareness and also hear other people's stories. Because there's a lot of people out there who have similar stories as myself. And I think the word organ donation and transplantation intimidates a lot of people. As a matter of fact, what I wanted to do, I see in like the minority communities where donation is, there's a huge difference between the general population and organ donation in the minority community. So I wanted to be an advocate, especially in the minority community, to let them know, hey, this is something that is okay. You're giving hope to people. You're giving life to people, and that is always a great thing. So, I always wanted to have a platform like this, and modern technology actually enables me to have a platform like this to speak to people about awareness and spreading the word, and also like to hear other people's stories because again, other people have amazing stories that need to be told.
Absolutely. I have two last questions. They kind of go off of each other.
Okay.
For the people who are watching who are considering being either a live donor or somebody who's going to sign their donor card and be able to hopefully donate, at the end of their own life, what would you like to say to them, the people who are thinking about donation?
I'd say, well, it gave me a second chance at life and to be around, for my kids and my family. And so I think if you look at it from the perspective like giving life and the point of that you're actually helping someone live longer in a lot of cases, right? So I really feel like it's the greatest gift that you can actually give. I mean, you're like actually giving life, and you're actually extending life. So I don't think a better gift is a better gift that you can give someone. I mean, I'm talking money, anything else, because again, your health is pretty much all you really have at the end of the day. So that's a great gift, and so I'm really like in like forever, indebtedness to the family who donated to me. So.
And now my last question, I guess, is going to be for those who are in your situation, for those who need a transplant.
Yeah.
what words do you have for them who might be watching this?
Just stay encouraged. You never know. You stay encouraged and do the right things in order to put yourself in a situation where you can, have a transplant. You can, because when you get, I've seen other people get discouraged and they kind of fall back on old habits, or, they let fear kind of overcome them and just hopelessness, and they just give up. So I'd say stay encouraged. First of all, have a support team, have an advocate that's really strong, that's actually able to advocate on your behalf. That I can't stress that enough. I have friends who don't have advocates, and I feel like people without advocates have worse outcomes because they don't have anyone speaking on their behalf. So I'd say those two things. Keep the faith, keep the hope, have a supportive team of people around you, whether it be family or friends, but also have a great advocate, because an advocate actually can make the difference for you as far as you getting the treatment that you need or not getting that treatment in a lot of cases. So that'd be my advice, and just hang in there.
Do you have anything that you feel like you want people to know that I didn't ask you today?
Well, as Laura mentioned, my goal in starting this LIFERS segment program and channel is to not only express. I want to get the word out, make people aware of organ donation, transplant patients, recipients, families who's been on both sides of both sides of the ledger. Also, people who have been recipients who are now living better lives, more healthier lives, and people can see that by what some of the guests that we'll have on the show. Also, I wanted to also hear people's stories and also put my story out there because it may be of encouragement for some people. So that's the whole reason for starting Lifers. There's a community that kind of a community that people don't know a lot about, but like we're normal people. When I see people now, they're like, "Oh, I never would have known you had a transplant. You don't look like a transplant person." So there's a stigma that goes along with being a transplant person. So I want to do a lot to break the stigma and bring awareness to this cause.
Thanks so much for letting me interview you today, and thank you all so much for joining us as we got to talk to Jay, and I hope that you join us for future segments as we talk to people who are organ transplant recipients, donors, donor families, recipients, families, and as well as people who work in the transplant field, and those who are still awaiting transplants. We are so excited that you joined us. Thanks for joining us today.
Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next guest.
We need your help to spread support and awareness for organ transplant donation.
Please share this video and channel with your friends.
Tell someone something that you learned or heard from today's guest.
Get in touch with us if you'd like to join us as a guest.
See you next time.
Peace.